All right.
All right. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm ready.
Hey everybody, welcome to Gen Monthly, January 2017 edition. This is John Spalding. I'm working on the back end of the production tonight, and I'm going to pass it off to Sean, who's going to give us a little bit of an introduction and rundown on our agenda, and then we will talk a little bit about the Global Engagement Network and get into our first panel discussion.
Yeah, thanks, John. Well, again, welcome to Gen Monthly. What does a 21st century media cooperative look like? We have some great panelists we'll be talking to later. First, we're going to quickly go through, an introduction of the Global Engagement Network, or GEN, reading of our mission and vision, and a summarizing of our principles, just very briefly. Then we'll introduce panelists and do a quick, 2-minute per question sort of Q&A with them on the topics that we'll have up on the agenda, and then we'll do a little public Q&A for those that remain, and after that we'll break out into groups and talk amongst ourselves and come up with some more questions to bring back to the main group, and then we'll talk about what we heard and say goodbye, and lastly we'll actually do a formulation of all the notes that we've taken, and to 5:30.
Promoting the transformation, commitment to social transformation. The Global Engagement Net. Back to you, Sean, and say a little bit more about our panelists and get us going.
Absolutely. So first of all, how are you doing, Arlen?
Well, it's a pretty intense news cycle that we're dealing with right now, so I'm trying to absorb as much as I can and keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that. Well, why don't you tell your background?
Sure. I live here in New York. I was a music teacher for a long time, and then I decided to go back to school a couple of years ago to get my MBA because I didn't want to teach anymore. And one of my professors was the president of Now This. And after Bernie Sanders decided to run for president, I started volunteering for him on a local level in New York. And I emailed my professor to let him know that the videos that Now This did with Bernie Sanders were helping me to register people to vote because they were such great videos. And then I ended up just coming in for an interview at the company a few weeks later, and they gave me a job there. And over time, I produced a lot of content related to the Sanders campaign. And then eventually I interviewed the senator in October, about a month before the election. So that was kind of like a peak moment for me. And now I'm just trying to get ready to produce content dealing with the Trump opposition.
Absolutely. Well, you'll be staying busy, and that's a good thing as far as, considering the situation. We can't ask for more than just people being on board, right? So what does independent media mean to you, being in that, role?
Well, I don't necessarily think that I work for independent media. I mean, it's somewhere in between, maybe. I'm not sure how to really define it. It's definitely a newer progressive outlet. So you wouldn't necessarily think of it as like an establishment media in the way you think of CNN as establishment media.
Sure.
So, there are younger, newer companies that, I guess it just depends on your definition of indie media. But I think media in general is at a turning point right now where the trust in media is at such an all-time low that someone like Donald Trump can use that against his opposition. So what I've just been thinking about the past couple months is how do you restore trust in the media And independent journalists have an opportunity to do that because so many people are turned off by establishment or so-called mainstream media that they really are looking for alternatives that are either local or that they feel that they can trust because it's just from ordinary people that don't have another agenda.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of going to the next question, which is, while combating the fight against the free press, is there anything indie media or anyone that's operating in that gray area can do to increase influence, on maybe especially those that are paying more attention to, just cable or just one niche place that's not giving them the full news coverage, I guess.
You're saying what are the advantages of that?
Or is there anything particular that Now This is doing or that can be done to combat that?
Well, I mean, Now This and other outlets have a certain formula as far as, making things digestible and shareable online. So over time you kind of learn, what should you put at the beginning of a video to grab the attention of the viewer? There's a real science to it, which is why certain outlets have been able to be successful.
Sure.
I think it's just, people are really into authenticity right now. So if you have an authentic voice, it doesn't really matter how big you are as an outlet. You'll see someone like Tim Black, for example, that I found out about during the election, or other, just independent journalists that really have a strong voice. So people start to follow them. They follow you on Twitter, they follow you on Facebook, and you build your following. It's like becoming like a songwriter or an artist. You just have to build a fan base. And I think people are responding nowadays to very honest, authentic content that has a real strong voice.
Well, I suppose that kind of answers the next question, which is, how do you combat fake news? And is it worth combating? I mean, you're hearing some reports that maybe it's not as influential as everyone worries it is, but what do you say to that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty scary. And, no matter how much fake news there actually is, the fact that Trump will use it as a weapon makes it scarier, because then it makes people afraid to find the truth. And then it just really destroys these institutions that need to be there to check on the government. So if you have no watchdog and no one is telling the American people what the government is doing, I mean, then we're really getting into, a real fascist kind of North Korea-like dictatorship where, hopefully it won't get that extreme. But at this point, I don't know. Who the fuck knows?
It's never been more possible, or it seemed more possible than it does now. It's certainly true. There's almost the idea that, of course, it's going to the social media aspect, that everyone's getting their stuff from Facebook and sort of that sort of thing. But now this is almost, it takes that and is running with it. Don't you think? Is that something that you guys have consciously done? That, I mean, obviously you're a digital media, and so you're aiming to produce stuff for Facebook. But have you, consciously gone after that sort of medium, knowing that it's going to grow and grow and grow?
I mean, I'm not part of the strategy at the company.
Sure.
I just produce for a channel, but I can say that I think our politics page in particular really grew. I would give a lot of credit to this progressive movement that just started, that popped up out of nowhere. And I really saw it as an opportunity to really, years from now, we'll have these videos to go back to really make a record of this unbelievable movement that was happening. So every day that I would come to work, especially during the Sanders campaign, and even now, but during his campaign, it was always, to me, it was like, can you believe what's happening? Like, this Democratic Socialist is really close to getting the Democratic nomination. And then on the other side, you had Trump, so, at the same time, I'm trying to highlight the good that's happening right now. I'm also trying to remind people that this guy is a complete maniac. So right now, what I tell people is, this is the same country that would have voted for Bernie had he been the nominee in the general election. So as dark as things seem right now, I just remind people that we could have gone a completely different way, and we're still that same country. So don't lose faith in just the people as a whole, because I think we all really are in this together. If we can just battle through for the next 4 years, I'm trying to stay optimistic, I guess.
No, that's a great outlook. Yeah, you've got to. Everyone plays their role, but it's essential for us to stay optimistic, and that way we don't lead to being jaded about the whole process and disengaging. Right?
Yeah.
Well, this leads to the final question, and this is about the free and open internet. So, what is the state of corporate and mainstream media and its influence on independent voices on an open and free internet? And lately, this has come back into the news, so it's timely.
Yeah, that's a great question. Corporate media obviously has a corporate agenda. So they're going to look for, potential candidates maybe in the Democratic Party that they can work with, So this is really a question of how the Democratic Party either comes together or it splits up. But you're going to have independent media on the side of the progressive candidate or the independent candidate who's not on the side of corporate America. And then you're going to have the corporate media that will be on the side of maybe someone more like a Cory Booker or establishment type Democrat. So those are the opposing factions within the media. But I have hope because I think the young people of this country they don't know what CNN is. They don't give a shit about MSNBC and all that stuff. So they are looking for independent media. And it's become kind of like this cool and hip thing to get into, especially with these protests and the marches. If you get good footage of a march or a protest, you can get 1 million views just on your Facebook page or your YouTube page. So anyone can use that to springboard into, independent journalists. And don't feel that you need to be huge independent journalists. It's more about just getting media out to the people at this point.
Yeah, it's almost, that's, I think, maybe also helps combat fake news and the fact that if you get so much of a certain thing, you start being able to, at some point you can get drowned in it, but it also shows you like, oh, okay, there's more people doing this than ever. So some of them must be, it must actually be happening. They must be happening for the right reasons. I mean, you could see that with the Women's March. It's one thing to have them individualized, but the more we come together as a group, the more it actually helps us trust each other. Even if we're not actually in the same group, we're all progressive and we're in these different progressive groups that need to stick together. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Armin, thank you very much for coming and chatting with us. We'll, of course, be putting this out on the internet later, and, your segment will be out there and we'll share that with everyone. And again, thank you very much for being here. And
thanks, man.
Tell everyone, so what's the website? Is it nowthis.com, correct?
So we don't really use the website. It's facebook.com/nowthispolitics.
Okay.
And then on Twitter, it's Now This News. On Instagram, it's Now This News.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I know that you need to get off and you're a busy man and it's a busy time of year. So go on and keep doing your thing. And thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you very much. Yep. All right. Well, that was very great. Now we're going to go ahead and move along to another panelist that I'm very happy to have here, and that's Tim Black. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on, Sean? How you doing, brother?
Oh, very well. Considering we were hanging in there and just keep fighting, right?
That's right, man. That's all you can do is keep fighting. Can't give up. Can't give up, brother.
Yep. So why don't you go and tell everyone a little bit about yourself, a little background.
Let's see. My name is Tim Black, of course. I have a show called The Tim Black Show. Online commentary, on content for, in its truest sense to me, are folks who are not tied to any corporation, meaning except your corporation. If you want to incorporate yourself, go right ahead, but not beholden to sponsorships, not beholden to boards and gatekeepers and establishment folks who say, hey, you can't say that. Don't say that. Get that out of here. That's what independent media is. It's just
done to strengthen independent media, do you think? I'm sure we've already started doing some of it, but what else can we do?
Well, for anyone who's interested in doing indie media, I'd say go for it. Yeah. Just out of tenacity. You have to be stubborn, big time. Like when the views are down, when everything's against you, when you feel like no one's watching, that's when you got to push hardest. You don't, independent media typically are underfunded or no funded or self-funded. So that's an issue, right? So what you have to do, what I've done is you have to diversify your content. You have to cover more than just one brand. So let's say for if you're an indie person out there started, let's say you want to talk about the environment, okay? Only talk to each other. What are we doing? Right? You get what I'm saying? Echo chamber, right? Yeah. If I only talk to progressives, who am I helping? There are a lot of progressives out there. If you're a progressive, you watch, there's several people who get it. Kyle Kalinske, now I name one person, gotta name a bunch of people, right? Nicole Sandler, like there are a lot of people if you're in this genre, right? But if you want to really push the envelope and you really want to blow up and you really want to make some noise and you really want to help people, you got to talk to conservatives, you got to talk to liberals, you got to talk to the gooey middle. And the way I do that is by, like I said, do social commentary on other issues that are more mainstream. And then once they like you, once they trust you, start slowly introducing them to your real stuff, right? And that real stuff is care about most, which for me would be equality, $15 minimum wage, which would be the environment, which would be, a myriad of issues. I'm a progressive at heart, so that's what I do.
So when the free press comes into this question, it seems interesting to me that they, so much of what the mainstream media,
for us to change up. We've just I've become aware of the collusion between politicians, political parties, and the media this election cycle. But I got a feeling this been going on for a long time, brother. You know what I'm saying? So, just because you discover, I just discovered that I don't know, that's where we are, right? So I don't shed a tear for what's going on with CNN, MSNBC, corporate media. I'm glad the field is being leveled. Now it's our opportunity more than ever. This is a great time for you to get started. Anyone out there to speak truth.
Awesome. Well, what does fake news mean to you?
I think, what fake news, when you deliberately lie, which is what a lot of media does,
sure. Right?
You know what I'm saying? And the full context of a story, that to me is fake news if you want to be technical. Right. So if you're aware of a fact that you're leaving out because it's not pleasing or pleasant to the people that pay your bills or whatever, that to me is fake news. I hate to, and that, I don't think that's being a purist. I feel like we have an obligation to give all truth. With all these countries or whatever, but I think they're being disingenuous, and now there's
mistakes. I mean, if they're intentionally doing it, right? I mean, essentially it's just propaganda. Sugar industry did it when it came to, facts, and so these are just what corporations do. They try and change public opinion through fake news, propaganda, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, so here's the next question. This is a big one, man. What is with the state of corporate and mainstream media, what is the influence on an open and fair internet? And, especially when it comes to independent media who, we thrive on this forum. It's the last open, you can say what you want. And again, like we were talking about earlier, you're not necessarily having someone that's telling you what to do. You can incorporate yourself and, run with the wind.
Definitely, man. I'm trying to get your question. So you're saying what's the effect of what's going on with corporate media, how that affects independent media?
Yeah, I was all over the place with the question. It's all right. No, yeah. So what is the influence of independent voices like, you, me, and Nicole Sandler and the Humanist Report, on
all those great people. Wow, man, this is, like I said, this is our time, brother. This is our time to shine. And under this, so, there are good and bad things that come from the Trump situation. I heard what Arman said about Trump, and I get it, and I agree with him. But I also look at the opportunity within it. Those people would have very likely had voted for Bernie Sanders if given the opportunity, right? If they would have had that option, but they had the option between Hillary and Trump. I think that Trump being in office now and the negativity, right? People are waking up, and it would only continue more so under Trump than it would Hillary. And I strongly feel that way. I feel that right now is a very special time to be doing this, and producing content, people will find you. You know, I got a video I did a couple of weeks ago on Steve Harvey. One of those commercial videos I told you about, it got 2 million views. You know, I grew 10,000 followers more on Facebook in like 3 days. So opportunities are there, guys, to reach people. And now I'm going to talk to them about Standing Rock, right? Because now they're here, and that's the deal, man. There's good in what we've been dealing with.
Absolutely. That's a great point, that you absolutely can bring people in that aren't necessarily going to want to stay for, you know, the weeds, but you can get them there by trusting them, by becoming their friend, becoming someone that they know, because automatically when it comes to fake news, is this guy bullshitting me? I don't know. Who knows? But after you get to know them, you know, a little, and you give people that part of yourself as a broadcaster, and they in return start, you know, listening to the stuff that you believe a little more passionate about, that's a little deeper. So that's
absolutely. I mean, a lot of people, we often wonder, why do the masses believe the Don Lemons, the Rachel Maddows, the Chris Hayeses, all these folks? Well, they've developed relationships over years. It's like a member of their family. You know, so when so of course they believe them until they develop other relationships, and then they find out other things. And so that's our job. We have to do the hard work. These people, you know, whether we disagree with them or not, and I sure as hell do, right? We got to give them that. They have staying power. They have been there. They have been doing the work. So we have to do the work as well. We can't just say, hey, I'm the truth. Look at me. No, you got to put the time in, just like they did, and you'll build those relationships too. And you'll grow. Awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. That's all we have as far as questions go. If you're able to stick around, that'd be great. If not, we appreciate you stopping by. And
yeah, man, I gotta cook dinner. It's
all right.
8:00 here on the East Coast, almost, right?
Sweet. Yeah, no,
I have risotto on the stove, man. But thank you so much for having me, John. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, don't burn it, man. No, go. Well, thank you very much, and we'll talk soon.
You got it, man.
All right, take care.
You too.
Thanks, Tim.
You got it. Nicole.
All right. Is Nicole?
I'm here.
Hello.
Thanks for coming, Tim.
Sorry for being late.
No worries. We're glad you made it. We appreciate you coming. And why don't we start just with a little background for everyone?
Oh boy. How long do you have? I've been in radio for longer than you've probably been alive. I know, I hate to say that, but yeah, it's true. So I'm one of those people who actually, you know, studied broadcasting in college. I spent most of my career, I worked in talk radio right out of college in New York, WMCA. And from there moved into music radio, where I spent the bulk of my career. Moved out to Los Angeles in '87. I did music radio for 15 years out there. Wound up back home in South Florida, where I live now, where I lived, where I grew up, and it started back into talk radio. I don't know, 10 years ago now or so. I was doing the morning show on WINZ in Miami, which was one of the Air America affiliates, right during the 2008 primary election. Okay. And in fact, I was fired the Friday after my show, the Friday before the Democratic convention, which was just love. Another station. So they took the IMUS show. This is how corporate mainstream media works, on a progressive talk station for 6 months because they got it for free until they could run out the clock. Then they just changed the format of the station. So thank you, Clear Channel. After that, I wound up moving to Air America. I was doing their late night show after being their fill-in person. I wound up at 11 p.m. at night, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern, and did that until Air America went off the air. In fact, Air America went off the air. Oh, shoot. We missed the anniversary. I don't know how. Oh, because we were hung up with the inauguration. Go figure. It was January 21st, 2010. that was the day that the Supreme Court ruled on Citizens United, basically upending 100 years of settled campaign finance laws, saying corporations are people, my friend. And I was going to go on the air that night to talk about that. And about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I found out that not only was money speech, but speech was dead, at least my speech, because Air America Radio went off the air. So that was January 21st, 2010. That night, instead of going on Air America at 11 p.m., I flipped on, at the time I was doing simulcasting on Ustream and just went live there. And basically, I've been doing my show online ever since. So I've been 100% listener supported. I was doing it at my radioornot.com, which was my thing. And now I've made it easier to remember at NicoleSandler.com. I'm now on from 10 to, well, no, I'm going back to my old days. I was on 10 to noon Eastern, weekdays until, the end of August, after I was diagnosed with lung cancer this summer. I took a hiatus, had surgery, had half my lung removed. It's a lovely thing. And so I came back. I couldn't sit on the sidelines watching this election happen. So I actually came back on, I think 3 weeks before election day. And now I'm on just 4 hours a week from 3 to 4 Eastern, Tuesday through Friday. And I'm on NicoleSandler.com. And I'm also heard on the Progressive Voices Network.
So you are independent media. You're the definition.
That's it.
So I mean, what does it mean to you? I mean, you pretty much just described it. It's do you have anything to add about, what independent media means as far as,
Well, I'm not even aligned with, I'm carried by Progressive Voices, but I'm sitting here in my own home studio. I have my own website. I'm 100% listener supported. And in fact, I'm so independent that I literally do everything myself. I mean, if you want to hear it, I have one of my show intros, here, I'll just play it for you.
When Nicole Sandler sits down to do her show, she's the producer, booking the guests, pulling the audio, planning the show, the engineer, running the controls, troubleshooting any problems, playing the sounds, calling the guests. She's the webmaster, writing the blog, posting the podcast, maintaining the website, not to mention the host, interviewing the guests, explaining the issues, giving opinions, and calling out the bad guys. And then you get the Nicole Sandler Show on NicoleSandler.com.
So that's really independent. I don't have staff. I don't have anybody. So when something fucks up, it's all on me.
Yeah, no, well, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. And that we know that when we're listening to you, we're getting you. There's no one,
No.
Perfect.
But by the same token, there's nobody, nobody tells me what I can or can't talk about. I'm able to bring voice to I think what an average person is feeling right now, because I've been on the roller coaster that this country is. And I hope I do it in an entertaining and informative way. See, here's where I put on my, I've been doing this too long hat. And there's a danger in that, the internet has been the great equalizer. Anybody with a, microphone and a decent internet connection can do a show. Can do a radio show. Now, this is, a lot of people are a lot of people don't even use the term radio anymore because it's new media. It's a new thing. I'm old school. I'm old and I come from radio. So I hope I'm putting out, I want it to be informative. We are 100% fact-based, like real facts, like when fact meant fact. In my world, it still does. But I want it to be entertaining first and foremost. I want the listeners to know that if they do tune in, they're going to get they're going to be entertained, but everything they hear is going to be true. I'm not going to bullshit them. They may not agree with me. And sometimes if somebody calls in and disagrees with me. For instance, here's a good example. Right after the election, or even it was before the election. I had some people who were Bernie Sanders supporters allegedly say that after Bernie endorsed Hillary, well, forget it, I'm voting for Trump. I had one guy say this to me, and after trying to talk reason to him for a moment, I basically told him he was an asshole and to, go away. I was stronger after the election, where if you voted for Trump, you say you were a Bernie Sanders supporter and you voted for Donald Trump, then you're a fucking moron. And, I have no use for you, really, because all the shit that's going on now, this is on them. And I have no problem calling people out. I mean, I've told people, don't listen to my show anymore. Go away. I don't want you here. If this is how you think, you're not constructive for our conversation. Just go away. Because we need people right now who are going to take action. See, now we're in a different territory. Now we need to, believe me, after the election, I was seriously considering stopping because it's dangerous to my health. I told you I fought lung cancer this year.
Yeah.
I battled depression, and that's another thing I'm very open with my audience about. They get me warts and all. And I had a really hard time right after the election, as so many of us did. And it hit again last week. I mean, I know that I don't do a show on Mondays. So the inauguration, was Friday. Saturday was the Women's March, which was awesome. I was down here in Miami. Sunday, I got really sick and I wound up in the emergency room. And Monday, I lied in bed all day. And part of it was physical, but part of it was my head exploding, I think. I really couldn't believe in 2 days, we saw the diminution of the truth. We saw, Sean Spicer come out and belittle that office, get up in front of the media and say, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? Here are the pictures. And hello, we know what we saw. And he's telling us that, up is down and red is blue. And well, actually not, that green is purple. It's saying reality doesn't matter anymore. And, I'm just having a real hard time coping with it. But what I've realized is I'm certainly far from alone. And seeing the protests that have sprung up in the last 24 hours in relation to the travel ban is really heartening. It's like, okay, yes, I'm feeling this. It's hurting, but there are millions of me. There are so many people out in the streets right now. I couldn't be happier about that because I think there's so much power in our numbers.
So while combating what you just mentioned,
that's all they've had before. And I'm not saying don't listen to them. Look, I watch the Sunday shows. I need to hear what these people are saying. Where I turn it off is, I'll watch the news if it's news. What's useless are those stupid panel discussions with the Jeffrey Lords and the Kayleigh McEnees and oh my God, where do they find these people? I don't give a shit what they think. So, I mean, on my show, I try to get guests who I can learn something from. So who adds something to the conversation. The other part of it is that, we need to support one another. I put up back, in the opposite world thing has been going on for a while. The Trump just took it to new levels. I've been pushing back against the corporate mainstream media for a long time. The right likes to talk about the liberal media. Where? Show me where it is and I'll go. It doesn't exist. It's a myth. And so I started this list that has now morphed into theliberal.media. It's actually a page on my website, but you can get there like that. And it's a directory. It's got, channels like the Progressive Voices channel, the Young Turks, a few, others, FYI Nation, a few other, 24/7 channels. It's got shows. I'll have to add you to the list. I'm on there. Tim Black's on there. Mm-hmm. Ben Dixon, Richard Esk. I mean, there are tons of shows like ours. And I think it's up to us to promote each other because, look, we need to build our network. I have a problem with some hosts who are doing this, who, it's me. It needs to be us. It's like Bernie. It's not me. It's us. We are in this together, and we need to have a big not maybe network, but a community. I mean, we need to forge a community and promote one another. So theliberal.media is a first step. And I'm always through the site. You can email me if there are any other suggestions on shows or websites or networks that should be on there.
Awesome. Well, what comes to mind when you hear the term fake news?
It's funny. Fake news used to be Jon Stewart, right? The Daily Show.
Great point. Yeah.
But the thing is, it wasn't fake. It was real news presented in a way that got people interested who had no interest in watching, the NBC nightly news.
Yeah.
We learned that entertainment was a great way to disseminate information, right? The fake news thing comes from, Fox. For years, I've called them the fake news channel. I've called them faux news. Years ago, I said, I got a new slogan for them. They won't, they won't pay me for it. It's okay. I'll give it to them for free. Fox News, we make shit up. Because that's what they do. I've been, for years I've been saying this, and it was funny then, but it's not so funny now because what's happened is they really have brainwashed legions of old people. When you think that's what it is. There's a movie out, but a woman named Jen Sanko. It's called The Brainwashing of My Dad or something like that. It's about her father who used to be a Democrat. But as he got older and he's retired and he sits home all day and he watches TV, and he's glued to Fox, and literally he's been brainwashed by Fox to the point where she cannot talk to him anymore. And it's, at first I'm reading, it's like, oh, this is going to be fun. And it wasn't funny. It's really sad. And it's a thing. And that's what happened to Donald Trump. I firmly believe, first of all, he's got serious psychological problems. And I'm not saying that to be glib or cute or funny. As one who suffers from psychological problems, I don't make fun of that. It's serious. And I had a long discussion with someone last night about narcissistic personality disorder, and she grew up with it. She said her parents both suffered from it, and he's a textbook case, and it's really, truly dangerous. I mean, she asked me what I knew about it, and I said, well, from a layman's point of view, I know, and she went on to get very specific. He's a dangerous man, and he needs help. The fake news thing, they are telling you that the facts that are in front of you are not true. I mean, it's like before, long before Trump took power, this is one of the ways that the Republicans and the pundits on the right would push back. You would present them with fact, and they'd say, well, I don't believe you. The whole climate change thing. Well, I'm not a scientist, but... Well, yeah, you're not a scientist, so defer to the fucking scientists who know what they're talking about. But their whole thing was, I don't believe you. That stops a conversation cold, because if you don't believe me, well, I got nothing more to say to you. This is what the Trump administration is doing. They're saying those facts, we don't believe them. We have alternative facts. That's what Kellyanne Conway was saying, is we've got our own set of facts here, and you can believe us. You can say whatever you want. We're going to tell you that it's not true. We don't believe you. That's what fake news is, when they make shit up and they present it as fact. I'm not worried about the stupid planted, Hillary Clinton's running a child sex ring out of a pizza place in Washington, D.C., because it's so blatantly absurd. Mm-hmm. But when they say, well, I don't believe you about climate change, so guess what? We're gonna muzzle the EPA, and we're gonna close down their Twitter account, and they're not allowed to talk to the press anymore. We're gonna make up our own rules. Oh, and by the way, media, you need to shut up and just listen. Then we've entered really serious territory. I think fake news is we're so far beyond talking about fake news. We got to talk about the constitutionality of trying to shut up the fourth estate.
Right.
Telling the media to shut up.
Part of the getting us to shut up is trying to control the internet. So that leads me to the last question, which is, what is the state of corporate and mainstream media and the influence on independent voices on a free and open internet?
Actually, the state of corporate media is stronger than it's ever been. Dumps, and I call him Dump. It's Donald Trump. D''UMP. It's just a way to shorten his name,
Right.
because Donald Trump. D''Dump. That's giving him the respect he deserves. Anyway, so Dump's pick to head the FCC is one of net neutrality's biggest foes.
Yeah.
They're going to give corporate America whatever they want. Therefore, I put out my show. I'm on YouTube every day. And I'm, I've got my own audio stream, and I'm Progressive Voices. And all of this is threatened now because I won't put my show behind a paywall, because I know that there are so many people who are really hurting. And I can't tell them, oh, you can only listen to my show if you pay $5 a month. I won't do that. Mine is like public radio used to be, where it's listener donations. It's on a honor system. It's a voluntary basis. But if they start charging more to go in the fast lane, basically if they shut down your video stream, or they shut down my YouTube, or it stutters like we're on an old dial-up line because we don't pay the big bounty. And, oh, by the way, AOL, podcasts or media, whatever, they can get through fast because they pay the money or they own the pipes. Yeah. We're screwed. So freepress.net is a good place to start. Awesome. The EFF Foundation, all these groups that are fighting for net neutrality. If you are concerned about the future of the media, and independent media like what we're doing here, that's a really big issue. And I know, look, it's tough. We've been hit with a whirlwind over the last 10 days or so from every direction. Oh my God, this issue, that issue, that issue. This is a biggie. If you're concerned about being able to go to your computer or plug in your smartphone or, listen to streaming radio without corporate influence, net neutrality is going to be one you really got to pay attention to. And I know we've got to be active on so many fronts now. We're being attacked on so many fronts now, but this is a biggie. It's coming down.
Yeah, it's all hands on deck.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Nicole. Well, thank you very much again for stopping by. We appreciate the conversation, and of course, we'll be cutting into segments and sending it out. And again, it was great to talk to you, and you had some great insights. And hopefully, we'll work together again in the future.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Nicole.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Well, since we are not having, we don't have any of our panelists were able to stick around, we're going to actually skip the Q&A and go right into the breakout of groups. So what we'll do is we're going to break out into groups no larger than 5. Actually, it looks like we actually have Anoa here. We might be able to get her in shortly. One moment here. All right, Anoa, you are here. Make sure you're not muted then. Let's see. Hello. All right, sorry, we have some technical issues going on right now. Let's go one more moment here and see if we can bring her in. Noah, are you there now? Hello. Your lower left hand, there's a mute. One moment, everyone. Sorry, we're trying to bring in.
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hello?
Is this Anoa?
Oh, yes, this is Anoa. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Well, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for being patient with me. It's been a little while getting back from the airport earlier this evening, and getting my family settled so I could join you guys. But thank you so much for doing this.
No, that's great that you were going down there and representing. That's awesome. I assume you were down at the airport for the
yes, definitely. I'm here in Atlanta. I was at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport a little earlier this evening, so that's pretty awesome being able to get out there for a little bit.
That's awesome. Well, why don't you go ahead and just give us a brief introduction to yourself, and then we'll get right into the panelist questions.
Okay, great. My name is Anoa Changa, and I have been a part of indie media for approximately a year now. I'm an attorney here in Atlanta. I have been involved doing organizing with some grassroots groups for Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign beginning in 2015, and that led to doing some different media interviews and stuff like that. And one of my organizing mentor, basically is what I call her, she does a radio show Sunday afternoons called Down South and Dirty, she and a friend of hers, and they would let me come on and do like a short rundown of things that were going on, kind of within like a grassroots report, kind of, right? And it ended up being a mix of political analysis as well, right? On one such call, Benjamin Dixon of the Benjamin Dixon Show was the guest, and he heard my rundown, and he asked me to come on his show. And pretty much, I think it's either the end of this week coming up or next week is my 1 year anniversary as a contributor to his show. And it's been about 6 months since I've been doing my own show, The Way with Vanilla.
Nice.
So Ben basically had me come on like early February, late January, and the rest, as they say, has been history. So it's been a fascinating experience getting to meet people like Tim Black, obviously Benjamin Dixon, and other podcasters, Michael Brooks and Michael Solomon. I mean, there's just so many wonderful people out there, and getting to do this stuff, and now you. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, what does independent media mean to you again?
I mean, it means being able to tell our stories on our own terms, but also being able to represent for our communities, for people, right? And being able to send in messaging that is untainted and not tailored to a specific corporate interest. I really do think that there's a variety of information out there that can be found depending upon what people's personal, taste or style is. But for most of the people that I've seen and interacted with, there's a commitment to, integrity in the process of delivering the news and delivering information, whether it's political commentary or just straight, factual news stories. But it seems to be, independent media seems to be about getting the information out to the people, as the best way possible without all the interference from bureaucracy and corporatists. So. Right. That's what it's going to mean to me.
That's great. Yeah. Well, what do you think can be done to build the strength of independent media and the influence, especially when free press is being attacked more than in recent, any time I can remember since I've been alive?
Right. Great question. And I got to hear most of what Ms. Sadler, Nicole Sadler before me had to say about this. And I do agree that, we do need to work together to help bolster each other, come up together. Basically, those who are further ahead, reach back. Those who, are kind of on the same level, work together and cooperate, collaborate where possible. But I also think that actually getting out there and engaging with people that we're saying that we want to connect with, at least on our local communities, to the best, best possible extent. But then also there's so many great events. There's so many great people out there who aren't necessarily the people who will get the media, like mainstream media attention. So even networking with local groups and organizations like tonight, I don't know how I'm going to be able to, where I'm going to find the time to do it. But tonight, being out here in Atlanta, attending, the protests tonight here in Atlanta at Hartsfield Airport, listening to the speakers we have Project South down here. We have the Atlanta chapter of CARE, I think it's the Georgia head of CARE who spoke earlier today. But I mean, there's people who do work around asylum seekers and refugees. I mean, there's so many organizations out here, and that's a whole nother audience of people to interact with. And
Yeah.
it's not that you necessarily have to pledge allegiance to any specific groups, but at least beginning to engage with folks, right, whose stories aren't usually told, but definitely have voices that need to be heard. I think that's another way that we grow and support independent media, because a lot of people really are tuning out from, the mainstream regular shows. I had a friend share with me a tweet from someone who was just upset because they were watching CNN and they saw a commercial saying that President Trump was under attack and he's doing the right thing, so you need to call and show your support. And there's some people who are outraged by stuff like that. Like, why would CNN let a commercial like that, other than the fact that they paid the money? Like people want actually integrity in their news and in their commentary. So so networking through social media, but really helping each other and lifting up voices, I think is a good way for us to at least get started. And then figuring out how can we have local cooperatives. I mean, even though we want to kind of have that national reach, we definitely have the opportunity as individuals to have regional brands and, and build that base and loyalty as well.
Awesome. That's a great point. And speaking of, lack of integrity, well, what comes to mind when you hear the term fake news?
So I like what Nicole had to say about fake news and like John, thinking about Jon Stewart and stuff like that. I mean, who didn't love The Daily Show, right? When Jon Stewart was hosting, even same thing with the Colbert Report. When I think about fake news, I think about like the tabloid section, right, in the supermarket, like, or just Saturday Night Live, little sketches, right? But when we talk about fake news now, there is an issue with stories that are, we have these different sites that have already put out stories that sound true, but they're not really true. We've already seen that stuff happening, right? Especially on social media, you have to go and you have to looking like you say to one of your friends, like, oh, no, that's not a real link. You see that? They're like, oh. But now we have this proliferation of this term fake news being used to denigrate independent media. I mean, we do have the issues that we've seen with the new administration, basically trying to like discount actual facts, things that people have actually experienced, right? Because it doesn't fit their rhetoric, narrative, whatever the case may be. But we've seen, since the end of the election cycle, we have seen fake news being used as a label to discourage people from buying into, believing, and supporting independent media. When, organizations like, even though when we talk about independent media, we're talking more like grassroots operations like ours. But even still, when you're thinking about alternative media sources like the Black Agenda Report, like, there's so much Counterpunch. There's so many different out there, more of your, I guess it's hard to call them print media, but internet-based news sources, right? When these are the types of outlets that are being labeled because people don't agree with their opinions as being fake, that is a problem. And when you have mainstream outlets like the Washington Post themselves are the biggest purveyors of this fake news, with that story about the Vermont hacking of the electrical grid that ended up not being that at all. Like there is this war being had on so many different fronts, and we have to really be alert, engaging, and we have to be willing to delve into the nuance, right, of what is actually going on. Because I absolutely agree with everything Nicole said ahead of me, but also I need people to be open to understanding and to looking for themselves. Doesn't matter what big name on CNN or MSNBC or even one of us, doesn't matter what we're saying, right? You still need to look for yourself and verify what is being said. I try my best to fact check myself and make sure I'm not telling nobody no BS when I go on air. But at the same time, we all make mistakes. But there's also a concerted effort to have a narrative that skews people away from alternative news sources, away from independent media, to try and pull them back into the mainstream. But the problem has been, we have seen over this election cycle in particular, the way mainstream news has been so focused on whether it's ratings or outdoing someone else or having particular narratives that they have really constricted the ability for people to get actual information and value from what's supposedly the news.
That's very true. Speaking of like one part of the internet that's not great is the fact that you can form these silos where you're just, hearing echo chambers of your own opinions, right? But what is the state of corporate and mainstream media and the influence on independent voices on a free and open internet, in your opinion?
Um, there is, oh my gosh, there's so much going on right now.
Yeah.
And it's right now. I know there's a lot of concern and a lot of fear about a lot of different things, but I am, as much as we cover organizers and activism and these issues going on, I think we ourselves are going to have to be at the forefront. I know many people already work and do other things or whatever, but I think in terms of making sure that the internet stays open, accessible, and free to the extent that it is, free to use, I think we are really going to have to be among those leading the charge to make sure it stays that way. I'm just thinking about, back during the campaign cycle, like during the primary, the Secretary Clinton had talked about, her idea for a new Manhattan project, working with Silicon Valley tech folks and government officials to create this new program and finding ways to restrict access. And I understand the concern about, wanting to fight terrorism and things like that. But the problem is, with the way that, whether the government or mainstream, sources and companies and people who lobby for things like this are able to use that then to silence opposition internally, to silence other people who are doing, trying their best to build out their own means of informing people. My concern with any type of, whether Donald Trump tries to do it with whomever it is, my concern, regardless of party, is the silencing of voices, the silencing of opposition. And I really do think that we, as an industry, right, need to band together to make sure that we're protecting the ability, not just our ability to continue to do what we're doing, but whether it's the high school kid, who wants to talk about whatever issue is affecting them in their blog or their podcast that they decide to do, or whomever. I mean, we need to make sure that we're on the right side of things. And, I'm not interested in just making sure that there is a way for me to continue doing what I'm doing, regardless of where everyone else. Like, if we all got it. If we're all not free to do our work, then I can't be free, right? I mean,
Exactly.
The same thing about when we deal with injustice in real life. So, it's definitely something that we need to. I mean, whether we consider ourselves activists or not, like, I really do think that these issues that definitely impact our industry are things that need to be at the forefront, and we need to be well-versed, prepared to fight and to help rally folks around the cause.
That's great.
Because independent media, I would say without independent media, I'm just thinking about like Standing Rock, right? Like Standing Rock, Flint, there's so many different things that independent media, the stuff going on in East Chicago, Indiana, there's so many things that people would not really know about had independent media and then people on social media and organized on the ground had not been hammering on first. And we can't let that type of stuff be silenced at all.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Noah. It was great. You came straight from the march in Atlanta, and we appreciate you coming in and talking to us about it and answering.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Well, and of course, you're welcome to stay for the breakout groups if you want to, or we'll talk to you later online. So either way,
well, I will talk to you later online because
right.
I have angry kids who want to eat.
Oh, yeah, I hear that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Have a good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Noah.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will break into groups. Now, when we're in our groups, what we're going to be talking about is a couple questions, to ask ourselves and to talk about what did we hear from these great panelists? What are our reactions to what we've heard? What does a 21st century media cooperative look like to me or you, however you want to look at it? And what would be a takeaway that you would talk to others about regarding independent media? And how do we best increase the reach of independent media as a cooperative? So we're going to go ahead and start breaking those out. Ryan's going to help us out with that. And I'll talk to you soon. I'll be checking in and giving everyone a 2-minute-ish warning about when we get down to that. So we'll go ahead and start doing that now. And thank you everyone for being here. I hope you enjoyed the panelists.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up, Nico?
Hello.
Nothing. Yep, I can hear you guys.
This is Mitch.
Hey.
I'm going to stay muted until I need to speak.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us with the Global Engagement Network's Gen's monthly conference called Gen Monthly, and people are in their breakout groups right now. They are discussing what does a 21st century media cooperative look like. So hang tight for just a second, and we will be right back with our wrap-up.
Today we're going to be looking at a conversation on independent media, the inauguration, which included attendance, protesters, and organized initiatives. We're going to take a look at the spectrum of organizing, the right to peacefully assemble, protests and activism, and whether going mainstream is good or bad, and a whole bunch more. And hopefully we'll be talking to you out there as well. And as always, we have John Spalding working in the back. How are you today, John?
I'm good. How are you? Hopefully everybody can hear me.
Good. We can hear you good, so hopefully let us know out there if anyone's too loud or quiet.
All right, guys, we'll just bring that back.
I don't know if we're supposed to. Are we going to be told the questions again, or I don't remember what they were. Reach, okay. Do we start now, or are you guys gonna tell us to start, or? Okay, I guess I okay. I wasn't sure. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I can answer the first question first, because what comes to my mind right away is but all of them had in some way said to build the community and to, for independent media to help each other and build on the network that we are forming. Networks that we are forming. So I think that's really cool. My reaction to that is that's exactly what we're doing. So we're on the right track. Do you? Yeah, and I think that exactly what is a 21st century co-op is about. And I mean, to reach out, we can specifically say that's exactly what we're doing. And I think, like they said, that's what people are looking for now. Like younger people don't care about, like Armin said, they don't care about CNN or whatever. They're looking for news online. So if there's no sources of, independent media talking and about politics, and they're just going to, look online for stuff that's non-politics related and look at that, and then, become more interested. So, but now is a time where people really can't be. So they're like seeking out the information. So, and it is there. You just have to find it and, find who's telling the truth.
Go ahead and jump in.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, again, like I said before, I listened to Nicole Sandler and Tim Black. I listened to several other independent media. Another one is Bob Kincaid with the Head On Radio Network. And I wish we could have got him too. But going back to what is common with them, we really need to get these older, more experienced, more polished. And I really got to emphasize the polished. As stupid as that sounds, on some of the other networks where the people are passionate, understand what they want to present, but the way they present it really is probably going to block them from ever drawing a large number of customers. There's this relationship, just like there's relativity in physics, there's relativity in the brain pattern of how we understand and trust things. And it's always a three-way. Trust is never between two objects. Trust is always as it's bounced off a third party example. And your trust of the third party is really what gets your trust of the direct one you're trying to trust. For instance, a lot of endorsements for people make you say, well, all of these people trust that person. That's where you give your trust. You have to have some relative means of judging that person in order to trust them. Well, a lot of times we don't have the network to trust people. So what happens is we judge them by their presentation. How professional do they sound? How many spaces do they have? What ums and ahs do they say? What untruths have we heard them say? Actually, you can absolutely lie to somebody as long as you come across as you're very knowledgeable on the subject.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to have John come in and I'm going to go over to another room. So you guys can feel free to keep talking if you want. Yeah. And thanks again.
Hi, John.
Good.
Hey there, pretty good, pretty good.
We had cookies in our discussion.
Can you refresh us on that? Just
That's the
yeah, well, we were talking about those things. Yeah, so yeah, I think like we didn't really talk too much about what a 21st media co-op means. I don't know, do you guys have any thoughts on that? I think I don't really know what it looks like at this point. So yeah, that's probably why. I think that there's a tie-in there because we talked a lot tonight about corporate media and how the media is sort of beholden to their corporate sponsors, and there can be problems on different levels. I think for a cooperative media is beholden to each other, like on all levels. It's about like participatory democracy. And when you make that into a media, you can, it's from the ground up. So I think that it could be a very hopeful answer to what we are being given as far as the media goes. What like from my personal takeaway, like from some of the discussions tonight, it's like there is some ambiguity over like what is this whole fake news thing like. It could mean a few different things because we get fake news from the corporate media, we get fake news from other different sources, and it's like I don't know. There's so many different angles to it.
I think the successful media co-op is what Tim was saying about expanding your reach and everything. I think that's how you make a successful co-op too, is by bringing in all the different voices and opinions too. So you're not limiting yourself to a one-sided point of view. I really liked what he said about, you brought in order to draw in an audience or draw in members. And then when you have that audience, then you can start to sprinkle in the things that you believe strongly about. I like that piece.
Yeah, I really like that too. And personally, like, I like the idea of, like drawing in, like, because you don't want to talk in an echo chamber just amongst people who already have your own opinions. You want to have like a real like discussion, like that involves plurality of opinion, and yeah, so to do outreach, you kind of got to get beyond your own comfort zone or your own, personally held beliefs systems. And yeah, so I think that getting creative with outreach is like really important.
I just don't know if we're going to ever reach beyond our own comfort zones. I think that's what the media has become now. Everybody has a niche. So unfortunately, the niche people like Fox, they're going to stick with the Fox type things throughout their lives and their media experience. That's all they're going to look for. I mean, if we can cross over and bring some of those people to a more progressive side, great. But I don't know. I don't think that's what most people are assuming anymore that's going to happen. We're all put ourselves in our own little boxes, for better or worse.
But that could be
in other words, I don't know.
That could be the role of independent media, though. I mean, you're right about how the Fox and MSNBC of the world are entrenched in who watches and follows. Independent media is so new that in forming a cooperative like that, if you take that into account and you say you don't want to be like that, there's at least the potential and the drive to want to present fair and honest information that doesn't necessarily have to be unavailable to either side.
I would question your statement about independent media being new. Independent media has been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Well, it may not be in the form of internet and blogging, but whether it was zines or whether it was union newspapers or people playing songs and passing songs along, there's been media that wasn't controlled by corporations for years. The problem is that now it's hard to just get into that airwave with all the other messages that are out there.
Yeah, and the internet definitely gives you the quickest and fastest and broadest outreach. I guess that's what I meant. The new independent media, new age indie media. All right, guys, I just got an update from Sean that the other group is wrapped up answering some of these questions. So we're going to bring it back to the big group and have a little discussion about what we talked about and then get everybody out of here. So sit tight. I'm going to get rid of these breakout groups.
All right. Hello, everyone. Everyone should be coming back into this main room now. And we're quickly going to be touching in with the groups to see what we heard. And do we have everyone in now? Let's see here. All right. Looks like it. So let's go ahead and go to the first group. Let's see. Let's go to the group with Mickey Mitchell and I believe Nico was in that group. Let's go ahead and hear. Do you have a representative from that group that wants to tell us a little bit about what you guys talked about?
I can do that.
All right.
I think we came to the agreement that we are definitely trying to do exactly what these professional independent media people were saying, which is build the community and support each other and promote each other and find these help people find these sources of information that are giving us nuggets of truth from, local areas and straight from the people's mouths about specific issues. We also heard Mitchell talk about some kind of specific structures of how your brain understands things, about echo chambers and about how, other people with other views, we need to talk to them. And if you guys want to fill in a little more about Mitchell, if you want to jump in real quick, you can. But it was basically about how we understand truth and news.
Mitchell, did you have something to add?
Oh, I don't want to delay the whole thing the whole night. Basically, I really suggest anybody has anything, watch Nicole or listen to Nicole's podcast. And there's all kinds of professional tricks that she does in that. And basically, how you present is more involved with whether people trust what you say than actually what you're saying. You can say absolute gibberish, and people will sit there listening as though it's the truth if you present yourself well enough. She also has little tricks into like how long into the show people can go without a restroom break. Because if people get up and go to the restroom, there's a really high chance they're not going to come back and be engaged with your show.
Great points. Great points.
The other thing I brought up was people are beings of habit, and you have to get people used to coming to you first as your source of where to go to get the rest of the news. So as your trust point, by building your stuff and doing the things that she has a very loyal audience of people who come to her and look. You also see other professionals come to her and see what she says, because sometimes they comment about her. But the thing is, learn from her. Well, we almost lost her, and we almost learned from her.
Sure.
Independent media has been around for a long time, and started with like old newsboys and just sending out pictures and old papers that weren't corporate influenced and programs and things like that. So it's understanding that that kind of where we're headed, or where at least where I understood that was with what we're focusing on is micro content and social broadcasting, and just kind of how the internet can help play a role to bridge that community, and that those old independent news sources are definitely areas that we can tap into as we're building the co-op, and trying to see and bring in some of those past perspectives as well.
Great. Yeah, that's, and that's basically what we were trying to do with this conference. So that's great news. Well, I thank you everyone for coming and joining us and joining in on the conversation. Of course, Gen Monthlies, there'll be a lot coming forward, one at the end of every month, every Tuesday night. And those, that we do politics, and just like, we were talking about with Nicole and some of the panelists, we'll throw in some other stuff in there to get off politics every now and then. But we'll definitely focus on the important stories, especially the ones not being told by mainstream media. And so we welcome you to join us every Tuesday night for that. And questions and that sort of thing that came up, maybe like an action plan towards either. So look forward to that, and go ahead and sign up and subscribe to make sure that you join in.
Great, thanks, Sean. Just for everybody, you can see, I'll just do a close with our last slide. This is what we're going to be doing this year with the Global Engagement Network. So please sign up, follow us on YouTube, and get involved, and we will get your opinion on air and into all of our work for this year. So I would say thanks, everyone. We really appreciate you guys being here, and remember, next month's conference is on civil rights. So thanks, everyone. This is the Global Engagement Network. And Sean, awesome work tonight, and we will see everybody for Gen Weekly this Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern.